start by introducing yourself?
Yep, I'm Chris Alexander. Charlie asked me to do this. Um, Background, I served in the Coast Guard for 30 plus years and did numerous natural disasters, everything from Hurricane Hugo to Deepwater Horizon to Superstorm Sandy. When I retired from the Coast Guard, I joined the Department of Homeland Security. And what I did there, my primary job right now is the title is I'm the deputy for priority services, which is a bunch of programs to help make sure calls go through during emergencies, calls and computers, everything works during emergencies. But because of my past, I'm also on what's called the Emergency Support Function 2 team, which basically helps coordinate emergency response to help get communications during national emergencies. So because of that, I was actually sitting the national desk during Hurricane Maria and Irene, and I was asked to go down there in March. I went down in March to help them with their reconstruction efforts.
Okay, and so what is the average day for you in Puerto Rico?
An average day for us in Puerto Rico. Well, they work right now. This is reconstruction. They've never really done this before. FEMA. We work for FEMA, and they have what's called a joint field office. And basically what that is, it's a giant coordination cell. And so they've taken over the old newspaper building, and they've got about 1,000 people in there. So basically the day would start at about 8 o'clock in the morning. We come in, and our task while we were down there was to help them with reconstruction. So we had to come up with a plan of how to rebuild Puerto Rico better than ever. So it depends. Any day could change, but we'd walk in at about 8 o'clock in the morning. Usually get there about 7:30. Grab our coffee, walk in, go over what we're going to do for the day. It was a small team of 4 to 5 of us and a couple other people that were helping us. We would have other sectors. Sectors were other areas of infrastructure. So, for example, there was communications IT, which was my group. There's power, there's transportation, there's medical, there's economics, there's public housing, there's roads, a bunch of them. So any of them could at any given day want to come by and talk to us. So they would talk to us about cross-sector issues. And then we would actually we laid out our own framework of if we were king for a day, what would we want Puerto Rico's infrastructure to look like? So basically we had to write all of that up, and we had to get that done, the first draft, in 30 days. So when we were first down there, that's what we were doing. A lot of writing the report, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of meeting with other groups to hear their concerns, both Puerto Rican and other federal agencies. And then towards the end, well, now that we're going back down to get feedback on our draft report and plan, and to help Rand Corporation write the report for Puerto Rico. And you have no idea what that is. So basically what happened was, when Congress gave money to Puerto Rico to help them rebuild, they said, we're giving you X billion dollars to rebuild. Come back to us with how you plan to spend that money within 180 days. So in the meantime, FEMA had a bunch of subject matter experts, including me, come down there to help them figure out what the optimal way to spend the money would be. Then they hired Rand Corporation, which is a U.S. think tank, to actually write the report for Puerto Rico to submit to Congress. So we're working with both of those groups too.
Okay, FEMA sounds like they're very involved. Do you think they're doing enough?
Have they done enough? I think they have done the best they can. There's some inherent challenges to dealing with Puerto Rico. They've had them forever. If they ever have a natural disaster like this on the West Coast or any island-based area, they're going to have the same problems. The logistics are just different. So based on everything that happened, remember, you had 3 or 4 major hurricanes hit southeast U.S. immediately prior to Maria.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the complaints is they didn't have enough blue tarps. Blue tarps are what they put down over the roofs when there's significant roof damage. Well, they don't keep just blue tarps laying around in warehouses. That would be a waste of money. So they have what they think is a good faith estimate of how many they'll need for the hurricane season. They didn't expect to get hit by 3 or 4 hurricanes, so they didn't have a lot left when Maria hit Puerto Rico. So did they have enough? No, but they quickly are working to get enough to do what they need to do. And the other thing is we're in recovery right now, so it's a partnership between us and Puerto Rico. So us being the federal government, FEMA. So FEMA can't just go out and do what they want to do. Puerto Rico has to decide what they want to do. So there's a lot of stuff they need to do to get consensus to go where they need to go. And honestly, Puerto Rico's recovery efforts are significantly hampered by the fact they're near bankruptcy or in bankruptcy proceedings as we speak, which complicates everything.
There was a quote put out by the Puerto Rican government that they estimate they needed 94.4 billion to rebuild the island. Do you think they'll receive a majority of that funding? Because I read that they are going to receive 24.9, I believe it was. So, do you think they'll get the required funding from the government?
Depends on how they choose to spend the 24. The 24 will get them a large portion of the way, but then hopefully that will spur the economy to generating the rest of the money, both private investment and other federal grants. I mean, I can't speculate, but I would tell you that worst case, they're not going to get any more money from the federal government.
Okay.
But if they do what they're proposing correctly, there should be economic growth can help get the rest of the money to build what they need to.
Okay. And I believe this is the last question. Are there countermeasures FEMA can do? Not to, I know you can't stop a natural disaster, but are there things you can do to lessen the impact? Because I know you've worked with FEMA before and you've seen numerous natural disasters. Is there anything we can do?
Oh, there's a ton of stuff that we can do, and it's all being taken into account. Fiber is the most cost-effective telecommunications medium we have. So the best way to do it is you put fiber optic rings underground. You put them underground, you shield them, you waterproof them, you protect them, and they do pretty well in storms. So does power. If you put power below ground, it survives much better. However, if you put them up on a telephone pole, they're more vulnerable to high winds. And if the poles aren't properly sunk in the ground, you have more problems. So the poles were not sunk in the ground very well. They didn't have, and they had a lot of, we call it air fiber, which means they've got it above ground. Above ground fiber means it's in the air. It's air, it's in the air. So it's just like a power line. If it snaps in high winds, it goes away. So that right there is the first thing that needs to happen is you need to put as much stuff as you can underground. What you can't put underground, then you have to reinforce it. The telephone companies did very badly during the hurricane. They had an absolute collapse of the telephone infrastructure. So AT&T has said that will never happen again. So AT&T is burying everything underground. The local cable provider is a partner of AT&T, so they are burying everything in the ground. And FEMA is making that a requirement.
Okay, so we were talking about how they got their technology, how to make their technology infrastructure safer. Can they do anything just so it's not a complete devastation of buildings?
The problem with architecture is this, and I'm just saying this from the reports. The problem with the architecture is most of the houses are not built to code. And part of that is you've got 4 million people on the island, right?
Yes.
They have 4 code inspectors on the entire island.
Really?
4.
So the houses aren't typical houses like you see in America most of the time.
No.
So how would you describe the houses that aren't up to code?
Oh, they may be. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're up to code or not. I can just tell you that they're not inspected to ensure they're up to code. I can tell you that a lot of times they're put in places that they shouldn't be. It looks great, but when it's subject to landslides, there's not a lot you can do. A typical Puerto Rican house is concrete block with a roof of some kind. You don't need a lot of heat or air conditioning because they've got a breeze and it's very simple. The houses are very simple. But the problem is if they're not built correctly, the roofs can get ripped off, and what's comfortable for somebody may not for us might be poverty stricken. And when the Rand report comes out, you will find out that Puerto Rico has a higher poverty rate than the poorest state in the United States, significantly poorer.
Okay.
So they have a very low cost of living, but they have a lot of poverty down there too.
Okay, I think that is all. I would like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this for me.
Oh,
And
wait to get my bill
do you charge by the hour?
by the minute,
Oh, darn, I'm broke.
pretty much.
Okay, thank
And
you,
it helps.
and that'll be all.